it's about your kids, it's about thinking about their future and how to invest your money in the best way. It's literally like just the beginning. Like this seems high for people and they get scared by $100,000 Bitcoin. They think, oh, well, that crypto thing I missed out on. This is just the beginning. There will always be a circulating supply. There will always be coins, I think, there just at a much higher price. Well, our coin is proof of work, just like Bitcoin was when it started. Yeah, for now, until somebody decides to change the rules. Bitcoin just grew differently and nobody could change the rules now, but every other coin doesn't have that same grassroots. People are under this assumption that cryptocurrency is Bitcoin and it's not the same, and I distinguish that for them right away. I always would ask people, what are you doing this weekend? Do you have any plans? What's been going on since I last saw you? Everyone's pretty much like, not too much. I'm not taking vacations this year. I have no plans this weekend. It's so much less of the excitement and people getting together than there used to be.
Thank you so much for being on again. It was the first time, was really cool. And you're doing a great job with the community, but also your podcast. I think the community is called the Paranoid Bitcoin Anarchist, and then the podcast, the Bitcoin Nova. You're doing fantastic. And so I was like, let's have you back on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again. When you first had me on, it was before I think I even started my podcast, and you were an inspiration. People saw my episode with you, and I was asked when I will start my own. So it was kind of the starting point to this whole thing. So it was nice to see how somebody noticing you and what you're doing with Bitcoin or with the community building, or just seeing somebody who's never been on a podcast before and having them on, just seeing how that could inspire my own channel. So I thank you for that, and you've also just been a really great mentor for me, to actually learn from you and how you do things, and you're just incredible. And also meeting you in Vegas was awesome. So just getting to see you in person, we got to meet each other at the Bitcoin conference, and it was really great seeing you in person.
Absolutely. And for the few people that don't know you, haven't seen the first episodes, haven't seen your podcast, maybe give us some overview of who you are and especially why you're excited about Bitcoin.
So yeah, I'm Staci, and I have been in Bitcoin since 2020. I don't have financial background. I am a hairdresser, and I just started to think about that question, what is money, during the pandemic, when you started to wonder about stimulus checks in the US. We were receiving these stimulus checks, and that got me thinking, how many more of these could we receive? Is there some sort of limit? And I remember, I forgot his name. I don't know if it was Noah, but at the time, the Federal Reserve, he wasn't the chair, but he was one of the Federal Reserve workers. And he had a video saying that there's an unlimited supply of money that could be printed at the Federal Reserve. And that was my orange pill moment. My one cousin was the one telling me about Bitcoin, and I kept ignoring him for a long time. But when I heard that, I reached back out to him, and he just explained to me that my savings, or anybody's savings, reduces purchasing power over the years, the more money that is printed. So this is something that can't stop. And if it does slow down too much or stop, it could result in a catastrophic global collapse, like economic collapse. So this is something that will continue because it has to. And in that case, Bitcoin will always go up, because all this fiat in the world just floods into markets afterwards, including Bitcoin. So that was an eye-opening moment for me. So I got into it in 2020. And, me and my husband are both very into Bitcoin. We got a little bit sucked into the whole altcoin frenzy, I guess, that was going on back then. But I still understood the root problem of money. But then I started to realize more how Bitcoin is different, and it's not like any other cryptocurrency. So my main discussion with people when they ask me even about my podcast and why I talk about Bitcoin, I love to distinguish that Bitcoin is different, and it is the only system that doesn't have a ruler, and the rules of the game cannot be changed. So every other system, the fiat system, cryptocurrencies of any kind, there's always some kind of, CEO or group of people behind it that can change the rules tomorrow. And I think that that's a really interesting argument when people from other cryptocurrencies online will say things like, well, our coin is proof of work, just like Bitcoin was when it started. Yeah, for now, until somebody decides to change the rules, because it's not, Bitcoin just grew differently and nobody could change the rules now. But every other coin doesn't have that same grassroots movement. And, it's not growing under the radar like Bitcoin did for so long. So it can't really be replicated. So I like to just explain that to people.
Yeah, I get it so much with like, oh, this coin is faster than Bitcoin. Might be fast on the main layer, but you still need the decentralization because you know what's fastest? Like if you tell me something and I write it down on paper or like on an Excel sheet, that's super fast transaction. You know, like if you have an Excel sheet and I have like two names in there, Staci, Robin, and I just delete one from Stacy and put the one in Robin, that's super freaking fast. I can automate that to work within a millisecond. And that's definitely faster than 10 minutes on Bitcoin. But my Excel sheet probably won't take over the financial system. Bitcoin might because it's decentralized, trustless, and all those other things. So it's interesting how the altcoin and the crypto people kind of focus on like one single small aspect. And it's like, oh, that's so small aspect. That's where my coin is better. And that's why it's deserves market cap higher than Bitcoin. I'm like, zoom out and see the bigger picture. And then you see why you didn't get a better Bitcoin. You got not even a close to anything like Bitcoin. You just got an Excel sheet and a glorious Excel sheet that you just programmed on a blockchain.
Yeah, and it's not going to take over Bitcoin. It's, if anything, I like to think that people practice on other chains. They like to, it's, I think of it as a playground, like people play around on these other chains. And when something does seem to work, that could get implemented on a second layer of Bitcoin. Cause, ultimately, I think everything will be built on Bitcoin. Other chains are just practice, so I don't think anything will last for the long run. It's just Bitcoin as the main event. So everything will just eventually move over to um, the strongest chain and the most trusted chain, and the one that can't be altered or changed. It's immutable, and that's what makes it so powerful. So as much as people believe that it is proof of work like Bitcoin was, I like to point out that even Ethereum was proof of work initially, and then the rules were changed and it's now proof of stake. So just because you think it is something doesn't mean that it can't be altered. Bitcoin can't be altered. So I love that. And yeah, things being built on top of Bitcoin is the way I see it going in the future. So I don't see any argument there. I feel like it's hard to have any sort of comeback when you bring up just those ideas.
And also, I mean, Saifedean mentioned that once in an interview, and I found it so fascinating that even if we assume altcoins actually have some use case and some nice things, at best they are a working company where they have a product and service they provide. And for any working company, the maximum you can achieve in today's dollars terms, so without inflation rate, they could maybe achieve a 1 trillion, 2 trillion, maybe a $4 trillion market cap, which would be insane. $4 trillion is now twice as Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is going after a $500 trillion market. And that's like more than 10x than that's actually more than that's more than 100x from the total addressable market that, for example, an altcoin could reach if they would provide something valuable. Which
Yeah.
I question. I don't think any of the altcoins do provide anything valuable. So I think they all go to zero. But even if we say they are providing something valuable, the opportunity of those are so much smaller than Bitcoin because they're not going after store of value, money, the currency aspect. They're going after like a product or service. And a company might grow to 2 trillion, 3 trillion market cap, but Bitcoin might grow to 400 trillion, 500 trillion.
Exactly.
I think that's what people really don't get, what that Bitcoin's opportunity is way bigger than it's a little bit bigger than Apple.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People focus too much on the fact that they think that they're too late to Bitcoin, and everybody that's ever bought Bitcoin thinks that they were too late to Bitcoin. Like everyone that's ever bought it, I don't think anyone bought it and thought I got in early. Like everyone thinks they bought too high because they should have bought sooner. because it's grown so fast over the years. But you're not late to Bitcoin. Like we are at 98% of the supply that's already out in circulation, and the next 10 years will take it'll be the last 1% or one of the percentages. The last percent will take 100 more years. So we're dwindling. Like whatever is going to be released is getting so exponentially smaller until the year 2140 that we're still so early. And then combined with the fact that there's only about 2 million coins on exchanges, and there's so much adoption from governments and corporations, and it's literally like just the beginning. Like this seems high for people and they get scared by $100,000 Bitcoin. They think, oh, well, that crypto thing I missed out on. This is just the beginning. So that's just where people are wrong. Um, and I just like to, it's hard for people to understand exponential growth. And we're just still so early in this adoption curve.
I believe in this supply shock theory that we hit this point then where we completely shoot up because there's literally no more supply, or will the price always regulate to a certain extent?
I think that it's how I believe is just how you see the S curves growing with technology, and every technology growing faster than the one before it, and how Bitcoin is growing faster than the internet did as far as adoption. I think we're just entering that S curve of global adoption. So I think as far as the supply, there will always be a supply of Bitcoin because there will always be a price that somebody needs to sell their Bitcoin for in order to live. So even if people start to believe, okay, and they understand that you don't trade Bitcoin over time and you just hold it, but people do eventually need to spend something in real life. So even if they're just living off of it and they're not just fully selling their entire stash, they still have to recirculate some of those coins back into the supply. So there's always a price, I think. So at some point, even if when it hits $1 million, which um, I believe it could be in the next 1 to 3 years or something, it's possible. But there's going to be people that are going to sell into that market because they have enough where they can take a little bit off if they're not even selling their entire amount. So it's a redistribution of wealth. That's what I think of it as. So there will always be a circulating supply. There will always be coins, I think, there just at a much higher price. And that's when, the people that, as the market cap grows, these big companies sometimes think they can invest giant amounts of money because it's not a big enough market cap. But as it grows that much, then all this, huge amount of capital can flow into the market as well. But they'll be buying at a much higher price. So, and yeah, so I just think it's going to be constantly redistributed. It's going to be like a circular thing. So I don't think we're going to ever experience total supply shock where there's going to be none, but definitely you're going to be buying sats. Like people will be not thinking of it as Bitcoins. You're going to be thinking of it as sats and more than Bitcoin. And those sats will be worth so much more.
I like that. And it's also interesting because you work as an hairdresser. And when I think about when I'm at the hairdresser, now I have a Bitcoiner that actually does the hair, and I always try to get him at conferences because he is at the conference. And then before conferences, my hair grow long. And right now I wasn't at a conference since some time. And I hope I get to him in time before I look like shit. But I always, even before that, I always talked a lot with my hairdresser. It's like it's a weird connection that you sit there for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe longer, depending on what you do with your hair. And I mostly had good conversations, depending on the hairdresser, but like mostly had good conversations. And you hear from all walks of life. There can be a single mom coming in. There can be a successful businessman coming in. There's like, or like, you don't know who's coming on your chair and what inputs you get from him. So I feel like hairdressers, or like almost like, um, you have so many different people from so many different walks of life just walking in and getting a feel for the environment, for the people, of what's going on in that local community. Are you, before I ask the question, are you talking with them about Bitcoin? Do you get a feel what kind of the Bitcoin adoption is with them?
Yes. So I talk about it constantly with my clients, and I spend a lot. I do men's hair too, but I do a lot more women's hair, and I spend much more time with women than I do with men, sometimes 2 hours at a time with most women on average. So there's plenty of time to discuss what's going on in the world. And the topic that comes up most frequently is how expensive things have gotten and how, women are always, they used to always talk about all the parties they're going to and, just all the fun stuff they're doing. They used to always go out to dinner and do all these fun things. And lately it's just, I always would ask people, what are you doing this weekend? Do you have any plans? What's been going on since I last saw you? Everyone's pretty much like, not too much. I'm not taking vacations this year. I have no plans this weekend. It's so much less of the excitement and people getting together than there used to be. And then we get into the topic of it's just too expensive to go out. Groceries are so high. And it's an easy transition into what's wrong with the world. So I do bring up Bitcoin, and sometimes they'll ask me, well, what is Bitcoin? I'm like, okay, first of all, do you want me to get started? Because once I start talking, I'm like, please, like, let me know if you're getting lost at any point, because I will just talk for the rest of our appointment about it. And I usually stop halfway in between and I ask them, I'm sorry, is this too much? And they're like, no, I actually am learning something. Thank you so much for telling me this because I had no idea. I never ask what money is. I never think about there being an answer to this inflation. They really, I try to, teach them about how when Bitcoin came out, how it's never been hacked. People are under this assumption that cryptocurrency is Bitcoin and it's not the same. And I distinguish that for them right away. And when they hear bad news about exchanges or things that have gone under, people losing their coins, I tell them that the truth, that people lost their coins early on because they tried to store it in a hardware wallet and they didn't protect that seed phrase, not knowing that this thing would grow like it has over all these years. So now people understand more the value of it. They're not going to be careless with their seed phrase. And I explain to them what that is. And I usually just tell people to start off, with an exchange, just buy the Bitcoin first. Then, I'm like, I can teach you. I'm like, once you once you buy the Bitcoin, just come back and I'll show you how to transfer it to a hardware wallet. I'm like, it's so easy. I'm like, if you know how to use a QR code, you know how to transfer Bitcoin. Like I try to be very simple with them. I do talk a lot about it, but more about the problems in the world versus the Bitcoin technological aspect the whole time. It's just more about how, political parties constantly, both sides, Democrat, Republican, just print money. And just the root cause of the problem is what gets them to kind of see it. So I have many clients that are thankful that they had no idea about this. Sometimes I feel repetitive. And sometimes I feel that when I talk to some of these people that literally have no clue and I tell them I have a podcast, they want to know about my channel. So I share my channel with them. And a lot of times they come back saying that they've been listening to it and they really are learning a lot. But starting from a point where people know nothing, I hear a lot of people just asking me for videos, just explaining Bitcoin from a base level. So I want to try to start doing that just to create some videos for super beginners that have no idea what Bitcoin is. For people like that, for people like them who are completely new to my channel and know nothing. So once um, they can see some beginner videos and then maybe understand more of my journeys from a lot of my guests afterwards.
Do you see people coming in your store and already getting Bitcoin? Is without talking to you first, like someone new coming in and saying like, "Oh, like I already know about it," and he actually understands it?
I think maybe a handful. Like I have a handful of people who have it, understand it, not very many. They're men. The ones that I do talk about it with, I don't have any women yet that have said that they get Bitcoin. If it is a woman, they're like my husband or my son has it. I'm going to share my channel or they're going to share my channel with them because they're into Bitcoin. So it's usually the men. And I did have one client I was so happy about because he's an older man and he's retired and he has a 401k and a pension and all this stuff. And I shared my video with Lawrence Lepard with him. And you never know sometimes if it really clicks with people or not, but he was asking questions, so I shared stuff with him and um I didn't go crazy and talk too much that day, but he came in another time and told me that he was so happy. He looked like he had this like light in his eyes, like he was so fired up. And he didn't go buy Bitcoin on an exchange, which I totally understand. But what he did do is take his account from Fidelity that he had and he transferred everything over to Bitcoin Treasury companies, literally his entire 401k. And he was so happy about it. He was like so proud to tell me that he switched everything over. And the reason he did that and didn't just go buy Bitcoin directly, which is a good point to make for people who are against Bitcoin treasury companies, because, I'd rather get straight Bitcoin because that's the way you actually own your your energy and your time that you put into working, and you can be your own bank when you self custody it. But with him, if you have all your money over the years working in a traditional system, if you were to pull that money and pay 40% tax on it and then go buy Bitcoin, they've lived in this system their entire life. Their money's already in this system. So for them, it doesn't make sense to take a 40% tax hit. It makes sense for them to transfer over to a Bitcoin treasury company. So I think those companies can be important for people who already have so much of their capital in the traditional finance system, and they could just move over to a Bitcoin treasury company, which will actually accumulate more Bitcoin over time, and they'll see their portfolio grow much more than leaving it um, in traditional stocks. So I like that idea. I think it's really beneficial for especially the older generations that have been investing all these years and don't want to take that 40% tax hit.
Yeah, and it's also better because previously you told people about Bitcoin and they came back with an altcoin. And now you tell them and they come back with either Bitcoin or a treasury company, which I think is a big step already. And it's interesting because, as you say, inflation, how things get more expensive, people actually get like this is something like most people understand, like, oh, I don't like that things get more expensive and my salary is not keeping up. That's kind of the problem. And then it's like, are they getting the solution with like Bitcoin? Or even if we broaden out the solution and say assets in general, how many people actually own assets? Like it's not that many. It's like 50% in America, I think, that own assets versus those who don't. I mean, there's also a big reason. Like there are people that just like live paycheck to paycheck, and then like it's either an income problem or like expense problem. Like, but that's a whole nother another topic. But there's a lot of people that just save in US dollars or in euros. It's that difference between people understanding the problem or at least getting the problem some kind, but don't even get to the real adoption. And that's what I wanted to get to, where people say, "Oh, we are at 5% adoption." And I'm like, "No, no way. We are not even at 1% adoption." And I think we talked about that in our first episode. Most people don't get Bitcoin, and that's go out on the street and ask 200 people. You're lucky to get one good answer or two good answers out of that. So we are nowhere near even a 1% good adoption rate, even if they have Bitcoin.
Yeah, and even if they have Bitcoin, a lot of them are the type who, they've bought it and they think that they're still going to trade it, or they're afraid of the price swings and they get scared and they're not convicted yet because they don't know enough about it and what makes it different. And they're still dabbling in these altcoins because they don't fully understand why Bitcoin is different and what they're actually holding. So they're still, those types of people that will trade it or get afraid and sell after they first buy. But I think that even for besides older people that would buy treasury companies, when I speak to those types of people, it's even younger people. A lot of younger people are scared. They talk about going to college and finishing having a large student loan, and they don't have money to go out and have fun either. It's not like they're finished with college and they're looking for a relationship and they want to settle down and have kids. Both men and women that are in that college age group, a lot of them finish school and they go home and live with their parents, even if they find a job right away. And then they find a job right away and they're making good money, but then they're paying for their large student loans. And if they even want to go out and have fun at all, they don't have also money to pay for their own apartment, like unless they get a roommate or two roommates, and then having a car payment and all these things. So it's not like, I think it's really hurting the younger generations so much, this inflation, because even though they're making decent money, they worked hard all their life and then they don't feel comfortable even starting a family because you can't even barely take care of yourself even with a large salary. So it's not just for older people, it's for people like me who have kids already who want to preserve something for them as they grow older. It makes me worried, and that's one reason why I got into Bitcoin too. When I started asking these questions, it wasn't just for me because I wanted to make more money. It's about your kids. It's about thinking about their future and how to invest your money in the best way. I was thinking about my house and how much my house appreciated since we bought it. We bought our home in 2013. And when you see how much it's appreciated, especially if you're in a neighborhood that's been, growing and, good schools, the value is going up. But it's really, I tell people this too, is it's not really that your house is going up in value. It's that your dollar has lost value. So it takes more dollars to buy that house. So it scared me because thinking about how much our house has gone up in price, by the time my kids ever need to get a house, I'm like, how much is a house going to cost? Like, well, how will I ever help them? So it worried me having kids already. So it's hard for any age group. So, you worry about this inflation from any standpoint in life. So it's just really good I love that I can talk to regular people, hear about their real problems, which a lot of times the root cause of a lot of these actual problems people have is inflation and the price of the cost of living and how hard the world has gotten. People aren't enjoying their life as much. People are uh, feel like they're stuck, they're trapped, they're kind of a little depressed, and I'm kind of their therapist, so they're trying to tell me about um, how they're feeling, and that's why it's a great transition into Bitcoin. So I'm glad that I have a job where I can, spread some of this knowledge and then also share my channel, which is great because so many of these people talk about their journey, and it can maybe reach somebody who doesn't fully get it, but then they can hear my show and resonate with somebody that they've heard speak. So because there aren't a lot of careers or jobs where you actually get to have a social conversation with people. So it's kind of perfect because I love talking so much and I love talking about Bitcoin.
And podcast and hairdresser is an actual perfect combination.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah. Who
also
would have thought?
interesting. Yeah, it's also interesting. I thought about that recently, actually, because I was at a marriage from a friend, and it's it's like most friends actually aren't married, even though when I look at my father's generation or look at the generation before, most people actually were already in the kind of marriage age, kids age, slowly when they get to my age. I'm now 26, soon 27, getting to like in three oh gosh, in 3 years I will be 30. So it's like in that age, in my father's generation, definitely in my grandfather's generation, kids and marriage was already like kind of either on track or like already done. And now most of my friends, even the friends that are 30 or a little bit over 30, most of them aren't married yet. Most of them don't have kids. And I feel like the broken money system has a lot to do with that. University is taking longer, student loan debts to pay off is longer. People don't want to get kids if they still have like a big student loan debt and they want to get to that. And then you have to work a few years to get it off. Then marriage is kind of hard. And then you can only get to kids. So I don't know where I want to go with that, but it's just something that I observed that uh, building a family in general takes longer and longer time for people like that. I don't know if you see the same thing, but I see that very uh, prominently in my generation and my peer group. I mean, my peer group is now Bitcoiners, but like my previous peer group kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge problem, and that's why when you hear about these declining birth rates, you wonder why that's happening. And a lot of it has to do with if you're not comfortable or successful or feeling secure in your own life, you are afraid to bring anyone into the world. You're thinking, how am I going to take care of anybody if I can't take care of myself? Even your own future is shaky and uncertain. So it's definitely something that at a base layer it destroys society, because it can cause a huge decline like this. So, I mean, when you start to have problems like that, like low birth rate, it's like kind of the decline of civilization, so you have to have something that can fix that. And that's why that saying, fix the money, fix the world, is so important because, yes, there's a lot of problems in the world, but a lot of problems can be solved with the money being better, sound money where you aren't stolen from. So yeah, the future definitely is bright with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin gives people hope. And that's something that you want to share with people. Like when I saw that client come in that put his money into his from his 401k into the Bitcoin Treasury company, he had this whole brightness in his eyes. He had like this, you could tell that he was fired up. He looked excited, and you could tell that the feeling in people and their energy is changed. So he looked like he was very different. He definitely looked like he was hopeful for the future, for his kids or for anybody else that he could help one day by making this decision. So it's nice to see that, and it's nice to see that you have that kind of an impact on somebody, and even people that you have on your show could have that impact on somebody. After he heard the show with Lawrence Lepard, he was buying the book, The Big Print, and he was like, I'm definitely reading that next. That's my next step. So I was so happy for him. So I can't wait to hear, as time goes by, he even was, not only did he send or, you know, convert his money into Bitcoin, he can't wait to get more. He has other accounts that don't use Bitcoin treasury companies yet. I think some of them are still, they don't offer it. So he's in the process of converting those to a different one of his companies that does do it so that he can get more Bitcoin through that. So he's like trying to transfer his funds because he knows that he's not done. This isn't it for him. He's not happy enough. He's like, this is definitely the way, and I need to put more of what I have saved into it. So it wasn't like he was finished. It was great to see.
Yeah, this constant feeling of like, I need more Bitcoin.
He
Yeah,
had
I'm not done
FOMO.
stacking.
Yeah, he was not. He said, he goes, I think he even used the word FOMO, and he was an older guy. And I'm like, he's like, I don't want to miss out. I need more. He's like, if I'm not spending it, why keep it in something that isn't going to grow as fast? And he really just started to understand, because when you understand the root cause of the problems in the system, it's manipulation, it's theft, it's greed, and Bitcoin is a shield for all of that. So I just love to see it.
Really, really cool. Because we talked a little bit about treasury companies, and they are kind of controversial sometimes in the Bitcoin sphere because people are like, oh, I don't like them. Individuals should own Bitcoin. And then they're like, oh, of course, it's a natural progression. What's your take on Bitcoin treasury companies?
Yeah, so I feel the same way for myself personally. If I have money that I could save, I'd like to save directly in Bitcoin and store in cold storage. And, that's my take. That's me personally. But it depends on where you are in your life. For people that are younger and they don't have pension funds and 401ks or any asset like that, or in any sort of system like that, then just Bitcoin directly is the only way to go, and self custody is the only way to go. But for people, I can't say I argue against Bitcoin treasury companies, because it is like this Trojan horse that now that you open up this access to the Bitcoin system through traditional finance, now you have trillions of dollars in capital that can flow into Bitcoin through that. For people that are stuck in a system that feel like they would never get Bitcoin otherwise, if they had to sell fully, get out of it, that 40% tax hit is huge. So people don't really feel like, even if they knew Bitcoin was better, they can't justify paying that large of a tax when they're not ready to retire yet, or they're not ready to sell that entire savings that they've had in this traditional system all this time. So it's a great you know road. It's like a little, like a pathway into Bitcoin through traditional finance. So it's important for people to have any kind of access. I'd rather have, if I had money in a 401k or a pension fund and they had MicroStrategy available, or I guess even BlackRock or Fidelity's funds or any of these, I would prefer to switch those over to a Bitcoin treasury company versus keeping it with the Magnificent Seven. So I think it's definitely nice to see. And if you're going to trust those companies, why not trust a Bitcoin treasury company? I'd rather have that than any other stock. So I know we know that Bitcoin is different because you become your own bank and you have your own, like you control it. You could no nobody could stop you from accessing it like any other system. They can, but there is a reason for it, and it helps certain people. So if you're one of those people that's stuck in the stock market, in pension funds and 401ks, I think it's a great thing for those people.
The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from Coin Vigilante represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what Bitbox did. Bitbox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a Bitbox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They're also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro-seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. And we have right now a summer sale going on for 15% off. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today for $186. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. And it unlocks, like, as you said, it unlocks not millions or billions, it unlocks trillions of capture capital and of the traditional financial system. If you look at the bond market, if you look at all the equity markets, the real estate market, a lot of that capital is there because it has to be there and it cannot really get out. Products like the option things of strategy with Stretch and Stride and all those things, but also other treasury companies or even ETFs, those are just money flowing machines to Bitcoin. And that's really interesting to see because we have those, 300 trillion of equity, 400 trillion in real estate and all those big buckets of money. And then we have this small dot of Bitcoin with 2 trillion. And you're like, how do we get all the money there? If people want to, if people like it or not, but we need those institutional flows to Bitcoin somehow. And I don't think individuals buying a DCA plan of like $50 a week will bring the trillions of dollars to the Bitcoin. It will be strategy buying billions of US dollars of Bitcoin every other week. That's a huge unlock. And there's just also capital that couldn't go outside of the system. That's just captured in the system and you cannot get it out of there outside of treasury companies and BlackRock ETFs and all those things. And I'd rather have it in a Bitcoin ecosystem than a fiat ecosystem, even though it's on fiat rails. But fiat rails in a Bitcoin ecosystem are better than fiat rails and fiat ecosystem. And that's
Right.
what kind of I want to get to.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just be stuck there and it would never convert over. And you have to think about majority of the wealth in the world is not with the younger generations. The majority of wealth in the world is with the older generation, with the boomer age group of people. And, they hold a majority of it that, it's even you think about the richest people that own the biggest corporations and all the politicians, they're all older people. They're not a lot of young people that have this level of wealth. It's a very small percentage. So yeah, the huge amount of capital is with older people, and those older people have somewhere to put it where they won't have to, get taxed hard like that.
Absolutely. You also have, I want to show this to you because I just realized it today. I don't know what you think about that, but I realized today that I have been showing off your group for some reason on my podcast a lot. And I think nobody really noticed, but I seen it today. I always share my screen like that. If you see here, for some reason, your group got off over here.
Really, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think because if you have a website and you like scroll it around, sometimes things end up because like Twitter I already have here.
Yeah.
Just thought of the story because literally I never realized it, but I edited the podcast today. I'm like, oh wait, I have Staci on. Oh wait, Paranoid Bitcoin. Why do I have that here?
That's so funny. Yeah, it's like bookmarked on there.
So I wanted to show you this. I made subtle advertisement for your group that I haven't even realized that I do.
That's amazing. Yeah, and that name of that group, I felt like it was even more relevant lately when when I had something that happened with our friend. We have a friend in the group who, he lost all his Bitcoin, and we are hurting for him, and we're so sad that this happened to him because he's been in Bitcoin for a long time. And it had nothing to do with Bitcoin being hacked. Anytime something like this happens, it has zero to do with Bitcoin itself having anything go wrong with it. But it made me even more paranoid. So the name of my group being Paranoid Bitcoin Anarchists is even more relevant because I remain paranoid, and I just want to make sure people, that phrase isn't a bad thing. It just means be careful. Be careful out there because there's people out there trying to manipulate you and steal from you. And it's not like any Bitcoin wallet can be hacked, but um, he he lost it because he downloaded a wallet from a trusted site from the App Store. So he trusted it. And I just wanted to bring up that your seed phrase is your lifeline. Like your seed phrase is your key to your vault, to your Bitcoin vault when you hold it in cold storage. And this download that he downloaded from the App Store asked him for his seed phrase. And because it was the App Store, he trusted it and he just thought, I guess I should put it in. He wasn't thinking whatever happened. But that should be a red flag for people. And I just want to remind people that never share your seed phrase. If you want to download or order a new device sometimes or download a different app, for an exchange, if it asks you for a seed phrase, you could create a new wallet. And then if you want to transact, you could send a Bitcoin there. But inputting your seed phrase into especially anything online, a device, I would be ultra paranoid about it because this was a phishing attack. This person asked for his seed phrase and they drained his wallet, and he had a lot of Bitcoin in it. So it was really devastating.
Yeah, your seed phrase is not like, other than you losing your hardware wallet or restoring your hardware wallet, your seed phrase should never be entered anywhere. You stamp it on titanium, and that's it. There it is. And then you don't put it back online. You don't make a photo on there that it goes on iCloud or any of those things. I've seen weird shit over the time. In the beginning, I've done it myself. Like, I had my seed phrase, and I changed it since then. But I have from the beginning my seed phrase in the iCloud. I made pictures of it. I'm like, oh, nobody will
Yeah.
ever find it. I'm like, of course, like AI will find it. Like, if someone hacks in my account, goes through my photos with AI, they will have my seed phrase within a
Yeah.
day.
So
I
that's why when you talked about stamping it, if you go ahead with what you were saying.
No, I was just saying, like, it's so important to make that point abundantly clear to people that haven't gotten around to it, because it's like in the beginning, like, people trust in systems a lot. And yes, we have great Fiat guardrails, and those systems work as long as they work. Like, till your bank account is frozen, everything is fine. And then you have a trusted system. So in Austria, I have a lot of this problem with my friends, orange billing them with self custody, that they trust the politicians, they trust the banks, because nothing ever happened. I have a bank account, and nothing ever happened to my bank account. Like, I've been, outside of their being slow and bureaucratic, but outside of that, they've never done anything to me. So I have no reason to not trust them, but I know better. That's why I don't trust them. And that's why I really be just in Bitcoin. But most people trust them. So it's really hard to get people across, and then they come into Bitcoin and they trust the brokerages, the exchanges, and they also just trust apps. And they're like, hey, yeah, like, I have my seed phrase here. Like, oh, it's here on paper. I'll just, like, oh, okay, like, da, 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 da. And then they type it in, and oh, yeah, Bitcoin.
Yeah. So don't trust, yeah, there here you're trusting, you think the App Store, Apple, and you think Apple is so secure, you never have hacks happening to iPhones, you think Macs are very safe, but this is something that I wasn't aware of, that Apple would have phishing attacks, but again, if anyone asks for a seed phrase, you never ever ever share it ever. Like, that is a no-no. So I like that you even brought up the whole stamping thing, because I love microseed. I had seen this company before, and I'm very interested in it because I have my seed phrase written down. You're not supposed to, like you said, have it on a computer, and you always worry about it when you write it down. You worry that, um, you know, I can't write it in pencil. If I put it in pen, will it disintegrate over time? So you try to do something with it. Like, do you keep it in a sleeve, like a plastic sleeve or something, and I always say, like, keep it in multiple places, like, don't have it in one spot where you might lose it. So you always know you know, where it is. But the thing is that I've even tried to get metal plates before, because I've thought about this. Like, I've tried to buy those metal plates with a little engraving pen that you can, and it just looks like I'm just like scratching it with my nail. It's so terrible. Like, I'm trying to, like, I feel like I'm a caveman writing on a rock wall, like trying to, like, just scratch it in there, and it looks like chicken scratch. It's terrible. So it's like the faintest looking little lines, and I don't even think I could read it. So I think that was a terrible solution. And I always wondered about a better way to sort of, save your seed phrase. And then you think about engraving options, like there's that, things remembered, or places where they can get things engraved. But then you're going to give access to your seed phrase for somebody who possibly knows about Bitcoin to an engraving company. So you can't do that. So I love this option of microseed, and I had actually seen them at the Bitcoin conference this year when I went there. So I saw it in person, the kit and everything. And that is definitely something that's a great idea, because it's this little, disc, and it comes with all the letters, and you can just stamp the entire seed phrase on this thing. So that way it's a small thing, but you can hide it. You can have multiple, of those hidden wherever you want to hide them. And it's just a great way to store it where it won't get erased. So I just love that.
Oh, thank you so much. They will love the shout out on the podcast. I think it's really a cool company, and it's also I like the optionality, and I know the team there, and it's they will come out with a lot of different options now, and I don't want to make it an infomercial for people, but it's like you can stamp your whole seed phrase on one washer. But you can also, and this will come in future iterations, and I'm spoiling that a little bit. We will make developments where you can make in 12 washers also 2 words per washer, or if you want, you can even make 1 word per washer and have like 24 washers, and you put it in a capsule, kind of developing that all now. So we're kind of wanting. We want to really make this thing like a once in a you buy it once and you never really have to buy any other backup solution, because I do a lot with Bitcoin. I test out a lot. And because I have to test out a lot, like there's a lot of like metal stamping. And then it's like, oh no, I have to buy another one for $50, $100, $150. And they're like, no, I buy it once and then I can just stamp it myself at home. And then I just buy a washer for 10 cents at my local store. Or if I want to have titanium, which does make sense in certain situations, then I buy it for not 10 cents, but like a few euros or a few dollars at Amazon, at the microseed store, like maybe there's some hardware store I can even buy it from. And that's basically why I really like it. But the main part is because I want to go always back to basics. It's like don't have it on exchanges. If you have the option, put it on a hardware wallet. If you have a lot, look at multi-signature, and then you should make your keys backed up. So like your seed phrase should be somewhere where your local device is not, because that device can just get ruined. Like you can lose that whole device in an instant. Like coffee gets over it. Like someone drives over. Like the hardware wallet is not that safe, but you need it. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the hardware wallet, I love that even if it does get destroyed, you could just order a new one and then put those words in and you have whatever you've saved back. So it's not like it's ever gone as long as you have those words. But I love that there's just a better way, because I just always felt like, I know that they're important to keep safe. And no matter how much Bitcoin you have, especially as it grows in the future, even if you've been saving any of it, but you just want to take full control and make sure nobody, has control over what you've saved. Um, whatever the amount is, it's nice to be able to put it somewhere where you control it. You have ultimate access, but you also have ultimate responsibility. You have to know that you're keeping it, that you're saving those words, and those words are your password. Um, but it's a great solution to a problem, because it is such an important thing. And knowing what happened to my friend this week, it is it's just crazy, because I've been thinking about this since, we mentioned it recently too, and I had heard of the company, and you love this company and everything. So I love the idea of keeping things safe, but also reiterating to people how important it is to not share these words. These words are, they're your lifeline, so no matter how much you trust, Bitcoin is safe, but do not trust anyone asking you for those words. Those words are super important. And that is something that I just want to feel like we should just constantly remind people, because I think even longtime Bitcoiners can forget and trust some sort of company that's asking them for a phrase where they think they trust it, but that's a big red flag.
And you mentioned also Paranoid Bitcoin Anarchist group, and it's interesting because we have this conversion the last couple of months, maybe even like a year or 2 years, where politics comes closer and closer to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin comes closer and closer to politics. Is there some sort of danger in there, or do you see it just as like a natural progression that we kind of have to go towards as Bitcoin grows in society?
I think Bitcoin will transform a lot of things. I don't think that Bitcoin, that there's a saying, Bitcoin, you can't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And I kind of think it relates to that. Like, I think people can try as much as they can to make Bitcoin a political thing. Maybe this can be something that can be done more with treasury companies or traditional finance. from that aspect. But from as far as people who do hold their own keys, who have their own seed phrase, who are self custodying their Bitcoin, uh, if there's more political things that come into effect with Bitcoin, and there's laws put into place that don't allow you to do one thing or another with your Bitcoin, it's not beneficial for the United States to do that, because there's other countries that are having, zero capital gains tax, I think, on their Bitcoin, and they're implementing different laws that it's freedom, because it's not technically just money, it's more than that. It's a commodity. Um it's it's literally it's technology, and you can't put technology in a box. So people could just opt out of that country and just move. You could just take your hardware wallet or leave it behind, move to that new country, buy a new hardware wallet, and put in those words. And as long as you could just take off. So I think if the US imposes too many restrictions politically, it would allow a lot of people that, have Bitcoin, that have gotten wealthy over the years, to just leave. So I don't think that there's a lot of options for governments to restrict anything too much, or to try to put too many rules in place. They might use Bitcoin politically, but I think the only political thing to me about Bitcoin is that it is literally absent of all politics. I think that there's this uniparty idea lately that I've just been, um, you know, resonating with, because people love to argue back and forth about politics, and I'm so done with it. It's both parties ultimately spend an enormous amount of money, and they can't, like, nothing stops this train. Like, they have to keep spending money in order to keep the whole thing going. Like I said earlier, or there's a global catastrophic financial collapse that could take place. So this has to happen. Both parties spend money. They know they have to do this, and it hurts all Americans, whether you're older, whether you're younger, anything in between, it hurts you. So politically, Bitcoin, there, when you think about this third party, or having a better party in the US that represents all Americans, I literally just feel like it's the escape hatch. Like, Bitcoin is the escape hatch. Bitcoin is right in the middle for everybody to just get out of one side or the other. It's literally like finding out the truth and just leaving all of the nonsense and distraction and chaos that these two parties, manipulate people with and distract you with from real problems and the root causes of those problems.
I was searching a chart, but I can't find it. There's like a great chart where you see the M2 money supply, and like each 4 year or 8 year period, which president, which administration was in there. And you just see, no matter what administrator, what administration is there, what president is there, they are going to print a lot of money. Like that's the only thing you know for sure going into an administration. And I actually was kind of hoping to see different things with Elon Musk being in there, because he is like so non-politics as you get it. I mean, Donald Trump is also like a very different politician in terms of like regular politicians, but like Elon Musk is a whole different ball game. So I was hoping for it, but then yeah, the big beautiful bill
Yeah.
came out, and Elon Musk kind of got out of that because he realized, yeah, they're gonna print money, and nobody can do anything against that. And that kind of opened my eyes. Yeah, like no matter who you will elect, they're going to print money. That's the fact, and that. There's difference, of course, between between Republicans and Democrats, but honestly, like the big thing, like there's nothing really changing.
Oh, and I thought that too. I had hope more that I'm like, finally somebody's going to get in there and gut all of this theft and all these issues. And, even when it comes to uncovering documents that should be exposed and things like that. But none of that stuff is happening like we thought it would, because it's all these empty promises that you vote for. But Elon, I feel like Elon tried. I think he tried to do something with Doge. He tried to make changes. And then he realized, even if I'm cutting millions of dollars, maybe billions, there's trillions that are being spent, and he's not making that much of a dent. So I think recently he had said that his focus is more back on AI and technology and the growth of the future, which he says his time is better spent that way, which in a way, it makes sense, because I think you're trying to attack a system and stop this freight train that isn't slowing down. But on the other hand, the deflationary idea of technology in the future, and with AI and robotics expanding and increasing production in the world for the future, I think I've heard that the governments are more afraid of deflation than they are of inflation. And that's sometimes what I believe is why the governments are on this, you know, fast track to spending money as fast as they can, because the future with all of the technology is going to bring deflation. Prices will go down because production and labor will be boosted to an extreme level. So with that comes a decrease in prices over time. So especially when you're living in a Bitcoin world where scarcity is, increasing and there's less Bitcoin available. And then you have, on the other hand, the fiat system where deflation will ultimately hit, I believe, because of the growth in technology and the deflation that would take place because of that. It's supply and demand. So when you have so much of supply with the boost in labor and um, labor and just the entire economy being boosted, you'll have lower prices in the fiat system, but then in the Bitcoin system, because Bitcoin's price is going to be growing so rapidly because of the scarcity that is there, the world would get exponentially less expensive for a Bitcoiner versus a fiat person, I think. So I think Elon's focus is more, let me get back to focusing on technology and AI and this this boom that we're about to have, that's going to actually help bring prices down, because that's going to be, I think, inevitable.
And it's a better way to do it. It's like concentrating on technologies and advancement, and Bitcoin, AI, like space travel, and all the things that he's doing, is probably a lot better than trying to fix the political thing, because I don't think Jeff Booth always talks about that. Like, you cannot change a system within a system. You kind of have to build those parallel systems, the new structure of something. Otherwise, you're not really changing something. And we use the term paradigm shift so much, and it's kind of overused, and like, oh yeah, this is a paradigm shift. This is a paradigm shift. No, it's not. It's like, it's just a small change in a bigger system, and nobody cares about it. That's usually what a paradigm shift is if someone describes it as something. But Bitcoin actually would be the paradigm shift. Like coming from a fiat world to a Bitcoin world, that's like massive change, where we change a system from another system. We're not changing gears, we're changing the system entirely. We are completely getting rid of an engine in a car and getting a whole new engine in there, a whole new seat. Everything is new in there. That's a paradigm shift, not changing like, oh yeah, like it has a new fuel in there, or like get a new steering wheel, or like something else. Like it's a whole new thing that we are doing. And I think that's what people don't get. Like they still view it as just like one small part in the financial system. And they are trying to figure out where in this financial system Bitcoin fits. And they're like, oh, it doesn't fit anywhere. So that therefore it's useless, but it doesn't fit anywhere because it's the new system. Like the new system can never fit in an old system. I don't know.
Like, it's exactly reminds me of, the horse and the car, so where does the horse fit into the system today? It fits for people who just have the hobby of horse riding still, or they need it for a farm for work or something, or people that just for sport, but it's not used on an everyday basis for people to use for transportation. So the fiat system is getting extinct in a way, not extinct, but it'll be more of a niche, like thing in the future. It'll just be maybe just almost like for nostalgists or something, who knows? But I just think this new system is like the car versus the horse, So um, this is this technology is here. Um, People bought cars, and the reason cars are everywhere is because it's a better way to travel. So just like how Bitcoin is a better way to save money and transact with it.
Absolutely. We have one question that I ask each and every one of my returning guests. And the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
Gosh, what have I learned outside of Bitcoin? Jeez, what have I been doing? Like, what have I been doing with my time besides? Okay. Well, I think that I have learned A lot more about networking with people and more about, connecting with people for my show, but that's still Bitcoin. Shoot. I'm like, what have I learned outside of Bitcoin? I'm like, what am I doing? I learned how to make homemade tortillas.
Homemade tortillas. Oh, I love that.
Yes, because me and my husband, we get sick because again, I'm paranoid. So I'm getting so sick of companies and corporations putting poison in my food. So I feel like that's like a little anarchy vibe too. When you have food that is not good for you. And my kids have been complaining a little bit because they're like, Mom, you're not buying snacks in the house like before. And I'm like, I'm not buying that stuff anymore because you're still going to eat the stuff outside of here. But I don't choose to participate in food that has poisons anymore. And I feel empowered because I found this app called Yuka, and the app is spelled Yuka, and it doesn't just tell you that if a food is healthy calorie wise, it tells you what additives are in the food and how many of them are high risk and what the known risks are of what's in any of these foods. So I love that you can scan any label. So I found out that these tortillas that we were eating every day, have large amounts of seed oils and preservatives in them. And you think, oh, they're low carb tortillas, they're good for me, but they're filled with toxins and poison that we're eating. And I got so tired of it. So my husband found this super easy recipe for tortillas. And I love baking. I already love making bread and all that stuff. So we did it the other day and we rolled them out by hand. And it was a little hard, but we did it and they tasted so good. And they were like super flexible. And, we made a burrito out of them and my kids loved them. And then but we only made 6 of them, and it took me a while. So I ordered a tortilla press now. So now I'll actually be able to not have to spend the time by hand rolling each one out. So that'll save me a little bit of time, but I am excited about my homemade tortillas.
That's amazing. I love that. That's such a Bitcoiner thing to do, and I'm really happy you shared that with me, with us actually. Thank you so much. We have an end routine, as you know, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question: what is the most effective activity anyone listening could do right now to get a better mindset?
Most effective activity to get a better mindset. I think it's good to just, you know, be more confident in yourself, block out noise, um actually listening to music I think helps a lot, exercising helps a lot to relieve some anxiety or stress, uh giving yourself mental space, like almost like meditation. Like if things are getting too crazy for you or too hectic, you actually just need to kind of take time for yourself mentally, create some mental space in your mind, so you can feel a little like slow down and just relax and try not to worry. Like, even if there are worries in your life, try to give yourself some peace for a little while. And I like listening to either classical music or just kind of like sometimes like lo-fi or something, just like no lyrics. Um, and just kind of sit with my thoughts, even if you're not actually taking a nap, but just kind of resting and just listening to music is refreshing, and it can help you just refocus and block out a lot of unnecessary stress in your life. And then I think when you do that, you can actually heal because, allowing yourself to feel some of the things that are bringing you down, I think just brings more negative energy to you. So I think just try to block stuff out, like in a way, like things that you don't need or things you can't control. I think if you can't control something, you shouldn't worry about it. Like, focus on the things you can control.
I love that. That's really cool. Thank you so much, Stacy. And I fully agree with that statement. By the way, I don't even want to add anything. Thank you so much, Stacy, for being on. Before I let you go, where can people find you and your show?
So you can find me at the Bitcoin Nova on YouTube. I'm on Spotify. I even just started a Rumble account. So I have my videos on Rumble too, on Amazon and Apple as well. So if you just search the Bitcoin Nova, you'll see my page, and I would appreciate a follow if you enjoy my content too. And thank you so much, Robin, for having me on again.
Thank you so much for your time, Stacy. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.